Welcome to Merschman Seeds Customer. On this episode, it's time to start thinking about plans for 2025 when it comes to protecting your wheat yield potential. We'll be investing in education the next couple weeks to better serve you. Next week is Iowa State's Crop Advantage Fair in Burlington, Iowa. If you're a Merschman Seeds customer, registration is free. Stick around for Ben's 2025 predictions. And watch the video below all about Meristem Crop Performance Adjuvant product training.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Dylan, and Lynn. And Dylan, I guess you're going to start first.
Yeah, so as we kick off 2025, I think we need to start thinking about our wheat nitrogen application because it'll be here before we know it. It'll be hopefully that late February, March timeframe. It was extremely early last year, it felt like, just because we didn't have the hard winter on the wheat. But as guys are thinking for that high yield, if your wheat is really looking good, or even if it might not quite be there, nitrogen is the way to go to help push that along. Because if you're really going for that high yield, we need like 100 to 130 pounds of nitrogen to really push that top end yield and test weight. Because we know that test weight is a big thing when it comes to wheat, and it can go down in a hurry based on your weather events. So if we can get it off to a good start, maybe it'll help us in the end. So as we kind of go into that green up time frame, we have that rapid growth with the tillering. We just want to make sure that we get out there before it really starts to get out of our hands and start to joint. As we go along, if we're going to do 2 or 3 applications, we kind of need to have that mindset now before it gets too late. Because if we're going to, we have our good base from our fall fertility. Hopefully, you plan that out, and then if we're going to go back with 30, 40 pounds your next application, and then come back again to finish it out, we need to have that plan right now.
Feed the grain, not the straw, right? That's what you're trying to do, and that's why it's really important to get that first application on just right at green up or just prior to green up, because that's when the rapid cell division occurs. You get your tillering going, and you set the potential for, like your test weight and quality like you talked about.
Yeah, and stand count is extremely important when you get to that. And maybe I stealing your thunder there, but stand count is extremely important to know how much nitrogen to use, because just like a small corn plant, it doesn't take a lot of nitrogen to induce the rapid tillering. It may only take 20, 30 pounds at that green up time frame, because if you have a high stand count of wheat that's already out there, if you have a high tiller count is what is really the right word that should be used. If you have a high tiller count and you apply too much nitrogen at this stage, what's going to happen is you are going to promote excessive growth, and that's not something that you want to do. You just want to basically spoon feed that nitrogen to that plant, let the wheat get some height to it, and then hit the nitrogen later, so you're not pushing vegetative growth, you're pushing nitrogen into the grain itself rather than the vegetative growth.
And the opposite's true if you got a thin stand.
Yep, you are exactly right.
Pour more nitrogen to it to encourage it to tiller, because you need those tillers. One head is 1 bushel per acre. So 100 bushel yield, you need 100 heads per square foot.
The numbers I look at are 30 and 70 pounds. And it's a matter of, if you have a low stand, you put the 70 pounds on first. If you have a high tiller count, you put the 70 pounds on second. Leave your 30 for the beginning. And you're always looking at sulfur. Every nitrogen application should have a sulfur application. How many pounds of sulfur total do you like, Dylan, in your program?
Oh, as we go along, they kind of, at least what I've been reading, they've been saying kind of a 5-to-1 ratio. So if you're putting on 100 pounds of nitrogen, we want that to be about 20 pounds of sulfur.
Yep.
And I think this year we're looking at, from a weather perspective, as we talked about in your predictions, that's going to be extremely important as we enter that time frame. It's probably going to be the most effective time frame is one of those days where we have some frost in the morning, the ground's pretty solid, and then we're going to end up getting warm and then seeing that wheat. Because what we saw last year, if we didn't have the snow cover and we really didn't have all that, we had a few instances of mild weather. This week we're going to have some mild weather, but overall it doesn't look too bad. We had a little bit of snow cover too to protect that wheat that, as we push through that, you want to be very proactive, because last year, like you said, we didn't really have that dormancy, a true, hard dormancy stage, and that wheat came out of it in late February time frame. So when you're looking at late February, early March, it's kind of a crime of opportunity at that point to be able to take advantage of an early morning frost. Probably get kind of slimy in the afternoon, so you want to be very diligent and timely with your application there to make sure you're A, not rutting up your field, and then B, taking advantage of the optimum window.
Yeah, and I would go back to the sulfur too. I think we could be pushing that a little bit more, maybe kind of in the same scenario as corn. I think we can keep pushing that limit. And then one last thing to kind of wrap it up too, if we're going for that third application, that's going to be, if you're doing liquid, that'll be with stream bars too. Kind of right before kind of that flag leaf is really emerging, would be the time for that.
Yep.
From our perspective, that's something that we've seen the more high intensively managed guys go to that green up plus then that flag leaf, and we're really seeing a lot of advantage with the yield components plus then test weight protecting the plant health going into the fill period as well. So if it's something that you're stuck at a plateau, 70, 80 bushel wheat, look at adding that into your program there to try to take that to the 100, 120, 130, and even up to 150 for some of the guys we're dealing with.
Dylan, you mentioned a technology you might, that helps you with late application. You might talk just a little bit about it for folks that are not familiar with it.
Yep. Yeah. So instead of a normal nozzle body, it's called a stream bar. We can put up a picture of it. So then it comes into like a bar off the main nozzle body, and then it helps kind of put that nitrogen down farther instead of on top. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically what it's doing is it's not, when nitrogen hits a flood nozzle, it disperses into smaller particle sizes, and what a stream bar does is it's not hitting that dispersion mechanism, and it's just dropping nitrogen straight down. And if you do have bigger droplet sizes, the bigger droplet size will roll off of the wheat rather than a smaller particle size, which has potential to burn the wheat for the late application. And you really don't want to be yellowing up that wheat or burning that wheat up when you're getting real close to that flag leaf. So the guys that are serious about raising high yielding wheat, a lot of them either have retailers that have stream bars or they have their own stream bars to make sure that you can get that late application and not burn the crap out of the wheat.
Locally, AgriNeed has them, correct?
Yep.
So like you say, you don't want to burn the wheat, and again, the later you apply that nitrogen, the more likely you are to burn the wheat, but using this technology, it helps mitigate that issue. Plus, then you're feeding the grain, not the straw, by putting it on right at green up and dumping it all on, and then you, like say, you don't check your stand, and all of a sudden you got wheat that's down, and wheat that goes down is not going to yield as good.
Nope, and it's usually the problem with wheat that goes down. It's the highest yielding spots that are going down, so you're losing the most amount if you're not getting that grain into the combine.
Yep, that's all I've got. We had a fantastic fall for wheat to go in the ground, so you can kind of drive around the countryside and pick out the wheat fields that they look good. So hopefully it'll be a good year for it.
Yeah, I was also scouring the internet trying to come up with what we were talking about this week, and wheat was one of the topics that was on there, and it was 15-inch wheat versus 7.5-inch wheat, and everybody's got different opinions on whether the 7.5s yield more than the 15s. I have a tendency to think they probably do, but there's some management factors that having your own 40-foot or 60-foot 15-inch planter versus your old 12-foot worn-out drill. But one of the interesting things that anecdotally multiple people talked about is that they're actually seeing a yield bump in their double crop soybeans because of RTK and GPS. You're not fighting. When you're planting in 15-inch rows, most of the time you're planting with a GPS, being able to go in with the soybean plant and offset that by 7.5 inches, you're planting into something that's not stubble, so you're getting more soybean plants out there in the ground better, and there's less competition getting them up, getting them ready to grow. You're not in an area that the roots have sucked all the moisture out, better seed to soil contact, all these different things. So that's something I'm going to be paying a little bit closer attention to and seeing if I can have glean a little bit more information off of those guys that are running 15-inch wheat.
Good point.
Yeah, so today I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that, as we get into the winter months, we can have some time here to maybe recharge the batteries from both a personal standpoint and a mental standpoint. So from the mental standpoint, great opportunities in the winter to kind of refine your skill when it comes to educational opportunities. We have a couple coming up. Dylan, you are going to FarmCon next week. We'll have a report from that. Usually that is a very insightful from some macroeconomic standpoint, some different perspectives from investments, foreign policy, good government relation information coming out there, as well as upcoming policy changes that are going to go on with it reflects into the ag economy.
That one's in Kansas City,
That
right?
one's in Kansas City. Yep. The Van Trump family puts that one on. It's 2 days of pretty action-packed information, some venture capital conversations, and as much as we think that we're isolated in the ag economy, venture capital is definitely something that we need to be paying attention to, both from competition when it comes to ag real estate, but also that's where a lot of the money for the technology improvements that are coming down the pipeline. Different companies that we've had the privilege to talk to. When you look at like Pattern Ag, Advanced Agrilytics, I think there's both of those companies. There's some venture capital backing behind that. So there's some definite investment going on in the ag economy and the ag community when it comes to this venture capital. So it's always good insight to see who's kind of doing what and the powers to be at that. Then on the 14th, the Land Expo, sponsored by the People's Company, Steve Brewer, who's the son of our area sales manager, Bill Brewer. That's always a very insightful meeting as well. There's some, once again, some more macroeconomic views, some more talks from technology, venture capitalists, always some good breakouts when it comes to different, hot topics when it comes to what's going on with real estate, whether that be solar, wind, any of the energies. So good information that can be gleaned from that. As always, there's resources out on the internet, Iowa State with their Crops TV, conferences. We went to ICM conferences. And then related to Iowa State, we have the 2025 Crop Advantage Fair coming up in Burlington on Thursday, January 9th. So we're excited to have the lineup that's coming in to discuss that. We talked a little bit about last week. The highlight always seems to be Chad Hart and his economic outlook. So we look forward to bringing back some insights from Chad on what that bears for us or bulls from us. No pun intended there.
That particular meeting, if you are a Merschman Seed customer, we will pay the $100 fee for that day. So it's a good day to be a Merschman customer and come to the Crop Advantage Fair at Catfish Bend Casino in Burlington, Iowa. It's always a good, attended event, and it's when Iowa State comes to Southeast Iowa.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's to bring that to closing. Don't let the winter months, winter blues get you down. If you're working in the shop, get your shop work done, but also take some time to maybe refine your craft when it comes from the education standpoint, because that's something that Joe has hounded on us to constantly learn, constantly look for new advantages. And I think right now, it's probably been the same thing said year over year, but there's something new and different being thrown out there almost every day that we're getting a chance to take a look at. Some of the stuff might stick, some of it might not, but just in the last 5 years I can think of, the biological space has become something that we've had become very educated on. Technology, I think, Ben, I'm not going to ruin your show here, but technology is another place, whether that be equipment or soil services, geospatial positioning tools, just a laundry list of stuff that we're getting better at. Drones, wish you still had yours, but drones is another one that's taken a large step forward. So if you want to be kind of in the game, it's a great opportunity to take the winter time to get yourself accustomed to the technology, get yourself accustomed to what's going on in the world around us, and be in tune, because that way, if you want to be on the leading edge, you got to be informed. So Ben, you decided to skip out on us for an alleged family Christmas.
Yep.
I think he was just scared to make his prediction.
No, I think he wanted another week to refine them,
Yeah.
get it perfect.
Yeah, well, I'll give my shot at it. I got two of them that I think are, one of them is probably a little bit more of a give me than the other. Well, they're both kind of give me's because they're both things that are growing rapidly, and I think that Merschman Seeds has done a wonderful job jumping on the first prediction, which is PowerCore. So if you think about PowerCore, that trait platform, we're probably on less than 1% of the acres. I was trying to find where all the different traits are at right now.
For corn.
For corn, yep. From a market share standpoint, and I could not find the numbers on it, but I'm sure we're less than 1% of total market share for the 2024 growing season. I can see that probably, if you figure about a third, and the other third going to others between the Bayer, Corteva, and then the other portion being in the last. If that's rough numbers that you wanted to guesstimate on, I can see the PowerCore trait itself over the next 3 years getting closer to that 30% of market share for above ground traits. So this year, I don't know if we'll see double digits, but my guess is we'll see close to high single digits, low double digits trait adoption. And that comes from Pioneer, all of the Corteva sub-brands, all of the independents. I think we're going to see guys flood towards this PowerCore technology because of the germplasm, not necessarily because of the trait. The trait's a phenomenal trait. We've talked about it 100 times, but the germplasm behind that program is so strong that I think you're going to see a lot of very high-yielding products coming out of the PowerCore camp.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben. 100%. The yield that we're getting from these PowerCore traits, and again, not coming from the trait, coming from the genetics, is incredible. In fact, I encourage every farmer that's listening to this podcast or the show today to plant some PowerCore corn. We have at least three hybrids that on your farm that to fine tune exactly what you want, and these three right here can tell you exactly where it needs to go to maximize yield. But I've been around a while, and to have access to this type of technology is pretty impressive for us. I mean, we're excited, and we can't go fast enough. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And you should know that we have all the seed in the warehouse, and it's all ready to ship, and there's not going to be no substitution. If there is, on the hybrid, the substitution's free. That's our guarantee.
Yep, and we do have good supply, but over the next 2 weeks, there's some discount periods that are coming up, and I think we're going to see a flood of corn sales coming in. So there is no guarantee of supply after mid to late January. So get the orders in if you're thinking about it for sure. My second prediction is I'm hearing a lot of buzzing when I'm doing these post-harvest meetings and listening to podcasts driving up and down the road. This John Deere See and Spray thing is something that I think is going to absolutely revolutionize and take over the herbicide, insecticide, and ag retail large farmer market. And I think next year is probably going to be the first year where we see a very large percentage of acres adopted to this, because there's the See and Spray technology is it seems to me to be like the first step that John Deere has taken. I was talking with a grower in Northeast Illinois where they farm a large chunk of acres, but a certain percentage of his acres are being pulled in. And John Deere is they're planting soybeans that have a certain trait. They're an enlist traded soybean, but they have this individual gene entered into them where something pops out. There's some kind of code that gets sent out, and from satellite imagery, you can tell that soybean plant has been infected by a specific disease. So I believe that John Deere, with this See and Spray technology, is going to be able to have the ability to spray individual plants for diseases to not allow that disease to spread rapidly through the field. So when you have that kind of technology, and we can talk about the herbicide, which is a little bit more of established technology, but he was talking to me about how, this thing, not only because of the latency period with tar spot that you have in corn, if that soybean plant lets you know that there's a disease there really early, even from a broadcast standpoint where you go out and broadcast fungicide, if you're out there ahead of time, knowing before the latency period shows up for a typical agronomist like us when you're going out and you're walking through cornfields trying to find disease and you're not seeing anything, but it may already be out there because you're using your eyes. I think that it's a technology that is going to absolutely revolutionize how we deal with post-herbicide, post-fungicide, foliar types of products.
Yeah, Ben, and one thing is the efficiency, and that's good for the environment. But the other thing we talked about before we started to film this morning was that when Roundup Ready soybeans first came out, the Roundup was so effective, many farmers just used Roundup as their complete weed control process, right or wrong. Well, the following year, they were getting higher corn yields. Well, that's because they weren't putting the residuals down. And like I say, we were talking about how even though those herbicides are safe to the plant, but the plant still has to metabolize them, still has to get it in the system and get it out of the system. And when it's using that energy, that's energy you can't put towards yield. So with See and Spray, the parts of the field that don't get herbicide, they're going to yield higher the following year for corn and potentially higher that year for soybeans.
Yeah, and there is data that's out there, and I know I was listening to a podcast. They were talking with one of the major PFR, the guy from Beck's that works at PFR. Some of the studies that they have done on this is that they are seeing a 5% yield increase on the soybean acres that haven't been sprayed. So, and I know Deere has their own internal data as well that backs very close to that. So, it's just an amazing technology, and I think we're just looking at through the keyhole of what the opportunities are going to be in the future.
Well, that's one of the ones that you're predicting it's going to be on the upscale.
Yep.
So the companies that are offering it are going to have some, and the farmers that are using it will definitely start seeing some benefits.
Yep. From a cost perspective and from a yield perspective, I think both sides of it are extremely beneficial to the end user.
Good. We're going to have to find something for Dylan to do. No more Group 27 carryover injury. What are you gonna do in the spring, man?
I don't know.
We'll keep you busy.
We'll figure something out. There's always something to figure out, right? Anything else you want to add today?
Yep. And one last thing, we have in the link below, you will be able to see a video. It's a training that our area sales managers did with offering that Merschman Seeds offers through their Meristem portfolio. We're going to try to release these once a week like we do our Cup of Joe episodes, but there'll be a link to the video talking about their Adjuvant surfactant packages. So Meristem has a handful of different offerings, whether it be non-ionic surfactants, MSO, all of these different style of products for growers that have their own sprayers or Merschman dealers that may run a retail location. There's some offerings there that are, very nicely priced. Take a look at your price cards and things of that nature. But
or if you just want to know more about the space.
Surfactant world, yeah. It's a nice 10-15 minute video that I encourage everybody to look into, and it's very educational. So we look forward to some of the offerings from Meristem in the future weeks as well. So,
well, we've all seen the weather reports, and it's going to get cold. So colder than it's been for a couple winters possibly here in the next week or so. So, in fact, the month of January. So I figured what would be more appropriate than to say, have some "it's so cold" jokes, okay? So I went through an entire list, but I'm going to pick out what I think are the best, and we'll see if I did a decent job or not. It's so cold, did you know I had to eat ice cream just to warm up? It's so cold that my shadow froze to the sidewalk. It's so cold that we baked the frozen pizza in the oven for 25 minutes and it was still frozen, okay? And the last one, it's so cold even property taxes are frozen. So farmers would like to hear that one. But anyhow, cold is a relative term, depending upon where you live, right? And this is for our customers in Minnesota, okay? They're used to cold. A lot of folks in the wintertime when it's cold, they stay inside. Well, if you're up in Minnesota, you get out and you're out ice fishing, you're running your snowmobile or whatever it is. You get out and enjoy it. Okay, so here's a fact. When it's 500 below zero, that's when hell freezes over. But in Minnesota, public schools are on a 2-hour delay. It's all relative, right?
It's all relative.
Well, anyhow, thanks today for watching, and we sincerely appreciate your business. We still have a really nice cash discount in effect. We call it our year-end cash discount. It goes till January 15th. Take advantage of it. Get your seed ordered. Save some money. We hope your family is safe and healthy. We'll see you next week.